Welcome to Transformation with Martine. Martine Emmons is a transformational life coach who broke free from childhood abuse, sexual trauma, and overcame cancer to become a powerful force of healing and hope for others. Martine describes traumatic events as fierce emotional tsunamis. They can leave impending doom and destructive tidal waves of emotions that hit you when you least expect it. Martine helps her clients dive into the depths of their trauma and pain as she stands fiercely advocating for them to shine a light on those experiences and find the lesson in the pain. She serves as a beacon of hope that guides you to see the strength, lessons, and purpose that can be born from the pain. You can feel alive with purpose again when you awaken your dormant strength, step into your power with a sense of peace, and discover a new wave of hope with the right tools and support. Martine and her guests are here shining their lights today through empowering stories of hardship and transformation to inspire you to find hope and to see that there is a beautiful blue ocean of serenity, happiness, and fulfillment in your future. Transformation with Martine starts now.
Everyone, I thought I was going to get choked up for a minute, and I still might. But today is a good day. It's a beautiful day. It's a day of pink. It's a day of healing. This is going to be a great conversation. So welcome to Transformation with Martine. This is where we conquer and overcome anything and everything and compromise nothing, right? We don't need to compromise anything anymore. This is 2022. We're here about taking care of ourselves. And my very special guest today, Sandra Dominguez, she and I have been like in the same, circles for, I want to say since at least 2016, if not before that. Yeah. So welcome. Please do a good formal introduction of yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sandra Suarez Dominguez. I am a sacred guide, walking everyone back to their beloved within, their goddess within, and, through all different types of modalities. But one of my favorites, two of my favorites are actually through the Akashic records and flower essences. And so it's really important as beautiful souls that we are in this world to really honor ourselves in such a deep, deep way and really know ourselves with so much unconditional love and reverence and compassion and forgiveness, because sometimes we forget that.
Oh man, I always love that too. You call everybody beautiful soul. It's really nice, and you have to almost be ready for it, because some of us don't feel that way about ourselves, that this is emotional now for me, because it's taken almost my entire life to like myself. It's only in the last, maybe since like 2012, 13 that I really started to like myself again. There were periods of it, like, having children. It's like, wow, my body did this. This is cool. Where I've had appreciation for myself, but there's so much of me that has separated myself from my body and just thought that my body's just a problem. My hips are too big, this, that, the other, whatever is going on with me at the time. I never saw the beauty in it. One of the things that you say, and I think might be a good way to really start the show, is, when is the last time you thanked your body?
Yeah, so important. This is where I always say, this is where the ruthless compassion comes in. We're not taught, especially women are not taught. We are taught to be selfless. We are taught to be of service. We are taught to be depleted in the hustle, in the go. And anything that resembles stillness, peace, self-care is considered, selfish. How can you do that? And that is where, I always say we got to come back into ourselves, because we do get disconnected. We do, when we are in that space of go, do, be, we forget who we truly are in our deepest essence. And this body, this beautiful body temple, takes you through every step of your life, waking you up, moving you when you don't want to, healing you when you need to in the most gentle way, as much as it possibly can. There are actually studies that show that your heart, let's say you're having an issue within a specific part of your body, like your heart, your heart is, your body is mending it, fixing it, trying to find different ways to heal. And they have found studies that the heart has changed, and they could see the different paths of how the heart is trying to heal itself, until the heart can say, guess what, I can't do this anymore. Okay, now we need outside help. I've done enough. And
Right.
that's the thing about this beautiful body. And, and we're taught, women are taught to like hate everything like about themselves. I mean, think about it, right? The way
For
we
sure.
look, because we don't fit in whatever society, whatever, or our beautiful moon time, our womb space, oh, our period, how horrible is, it's all bad, bad, bad. But
Yeah.
there's a beautiful soul that lives within inside you, and it
Mm-hmm.
hears everything you say. What would it take for you to literally just hold yourself and hug yourself and just say, can I just thank you for loving me way more than I've ever loved you?
Yes.
Can I thank you for moving me forward even when I don't even know how to do that? When you do that, there is such a gift happening in that space. Your heart opens up. Your soul is receiving, is in gratitude. And you can literally feel that presence. And I just sob, and I thank it and I hug myself, because in reality, when's the last time you ever hugged yourself?
Right.
Right? We're taught we always need an outside thing. But if you look in the mirror, and I love to do this with my clients, I want you to spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes in the mirror, looking in your eyes and letting your soul see you. You're seeing in your soul, and just simply allow yourself to say, can I thank you for all you do for me?
I love that.
Can I love you? And what happens, it's really remarkable. When I did it to myself, and even now when I do it, I literally can see my higher self staring back at me, because my eyes begin to shift. They change shapes and color. And I'm just like in awe of the fact that I can see her through my own physical eyes. It's like, can I thank you? Like, I love you so much. Thank you for always, always letting me know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that selfish thing, or it's the thing that it almost feels egotistical to like yourself, and there's obviously a different way to, egotistical is completely different than actually loving yourself and your body, the vessel, your soul. Because, I do mirror work with my clients as well, but my coach about, maybe 5 years ago, I've had the same coach for many years. But about 5 years ago, she had me look in the mirror and tell myself all the awful things about me. And I'm looking at, yes, but it's what I needed.
Yeah, of
Because,
course.
once I'm looking in there and I'm looking at my eyes, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But I had to get to that point, because I couldn't see what she was telling me by doing, like, mirror work, like, oh, I love you, I'm proud of you, and all that. I couldn't do that until I did the opposite.
Also, like
Game
saying,
changer.
if your words can show up on your body, would you love to see what you see being reflected back to you? Right?
Yeah.
And so imagine the words you say to yourself. And yeah, I understand where people are saying, oh, it's so egotistical, and this, but you know what? You have to be your biggest cheerleader, because everything begins and ends here with you. Right. And so if you don't love yourself, if you're not cheering for yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, how is anybody else going to believe in you? How is anybody else going to want to say, yeah, that's the one? Like, you're paving the way, but you have to also understand that you got to love yourself beyond a shadow of a doubt, just like you love your kids. Right.
Yeah.
We love our kids unconditionally. It's got to start here, because our kids, they're not listening to what we're saying. They're watching what we're doing. And so they're implementing what they see. So if you're telling your kids, I want you to love yourself, all this and that, but then you hating yourself, what makes you think that that is not what they're picking up? But then when they treat themselves harshly, right, you're like, oh, I wonder where they get it. And then it doesn't click for you. Like, I wonder where they get, well, see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
See what you're saying. And like, I know when my kids say things, it's always like, oh, my mom says this and that. And I'm like, oh, well, where did she hear that? But it's because she hears me. And I hear
Yeah.
her speaking like me. And she's telling all her friends. And that for me is like, oh my God, she's growing. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm so grateful that I
Mm-hmm.
don't raise my kids the way I was raised. I was
Yep.
not raised to have space and
Right.
be still and, you know, just stay in your own space of honoring
Mm-hmm.
yourself, your words, your
Yeah.
body, whatever that is, you know. So I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it is a lot to do with society because I mean, this is forever though. This has been going on forever. It seems like it's so much worse now, especially with social media. But at the same time, I remember a lot of times, like my mom would be at the counter. My mom was in really good shape until she got in this accident, but she'd stand at the counter and just be drinking water and everything, all fine and good, but she didn't want to eat, so she just tried to fill
Mm.
herself up that way to stay thin. And she told me, she goes, one of the ways that can help you to not gain weight and, or, to lose weight or whatever, is like, when you think of your food, think of hair swirled in it. And I think about that now, how, gosh, that's what she had to do to maintain herself and, or to her standard, or what she thought my dad wanted, or, whatever the case. And I find that so sad now. But I did that in so many ways, even in raising my kids, like, oh, let's not eat that. We don't want to gain weight, or we don't want to do this. And I'm not going to say I regret it. I did. I had to forgive myself through all that. But I know why, a lot of times why they've had issues, why things have come up for them, is because I just didn't want them to be made fun of or picked on like I was. So so you think you're doing a good thing, but you're really not. You're putting fear in them that they never even had to begin with.
That's how the generational traumas keep going and keep
Yep.
going, because unknowingly, right? Unknowingly, this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Me too. And yet you are the one here awakened to change that and to shift that.
Right.
And that's why we are giving these paths, these journeys, these ways of being, because we're the chosen ones to do this work, so we can shift it. And every time we heal and give space for someone else to do so too.
Yes.
So it's really a gift.
It is a gift. And I can see that now. It took quite a few years, and of course we're all still learning, right? We do the best we can every day.
That's it. The best you can. Every single day, every single moment. With his compassion,
Yeah.
and forgiveness. Because you don't know. You don't know. But now that you know, like, you don't know, you didn't have the experience. And where can we move here in so much more love and gentleness?
Yes. How can I learn from my parents' mistakes? How can I learn from my own and keep
What's
doing
here
better
for
every
me?
day?
Right.
Yep. What do I need to learn? Yeah. So we're going to take a short break, but before we do, where can everybody find you?
Oh, they can find me on my website at www.luminousinnerwisdom.com, on Facebook, SRA Dominguez, or Instagram, same thing, SRA Dominguez.
Right on. Okay. We'll be right back, everyone. Thank you.
To the beautiful soul who is sick and tired of not being the fullest expression of herself, she who is disconnected from herself, her body, her voice, and her power. She's overwhelmed and exhausted from trying to be everything for everyone except for herself. If you hear these words and they stir something within you, then this is for you, beautiful soul. It is time to come home to yourself. Sandra Suarez Dominguez can guide you there. Visit luminousinnerwisdom.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome and conquer anything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Sandra. Sandra, I'm sorry. I know I said your last name wrong, so let's just go
Suarez
Sandra at the moment.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Dominguez, yes.
It's all good.
Okay, I just didn't want to mess up again. So, can you tell us a little bit? Usually, like I said, the beginning of the show is where we usually start with this, but how did you get into this work? And why do you do what you do?
Thank you for asking. I've always been on the spiritual path since I was very, very young. I always had
Hmm.
lots of like deja vu moments when I was
Uh-huh.
like 5, and I'm like, oh, this looks so familiar. I just had this in my dream, and so I was
Hmm.
always very spiritually connected. But because in my culture or in my family, right, Hispanic, Catholic, we
Hmm.
don't speak to spirit. It's bad. So it was always disconnected. It was always like, oh, you shouldn't do it. It's gonna be bad for you. And
Mm.
so that caused me to always doubt myself. So I wouldn't listen to the divine guidance, right? So it was always chaos, chaos, chaos. And then one day I said, I was at this clothing place, not a clothing, like a Michaels, think of Michaels. And I was looking for a specific type of material. And I
Hmm.
was talking to this young lady and she's helping me. I liked her energy. It was all good. And then all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I can't help you, but this gentleman is going to come and help me. And all of a sudden, his energy just came close to me and everything inside of me started going like this. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on? What is happening? Right. And I was like, wait, but
Yeah.
I'm not shaking physically. I'm shaking energetically within me. And I was just like, oh, he's like, oh, can I help? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. Your vibe is a little off. I really can't be here. And he's like, but I just said, something off. Your energy's a little off. And he just went off. Like he just started cursing at me and I'm laughing, right? Because I'm just like, I don't know. I don't understand what's happening, but I don't need to interact with you. And then I heard, step out. And I stepped out. I left everything and I walked away. And I was like, oh God, what is that? And he's like, oh, now it's time. It's now time for you to come back home. Like now time for you to do the work.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I was like, okay, great. I was like, if you want me to do this work, please send me everything and everyone that you think I need to help me stay on the work, on the path that you want me to. And
Hmm.
because God has jokes, because I always say God has jokes, because he really does,
Well.
right?
Hmm.
Everybody that I needed showed up and it was so beautiful. And I said, this is how I know that God has jokes, because I said to him, one of these programs, I was like, oh man, I'm on a strict budget, it has to be this for this amount of time, so on and so forth. I said, God, if you want me to do this program, you're going to make it work for me. The money's going to be right, the time is going to be right, everything is just going to fall into place. So I sent the email, I was taught, I see that you offer a payment plan, I'm really interested, how can you please give me the details on that? And I started laughing when they returned, right, and said, oh, the email is for this amount of time and this much money. And I just laughed and I was like, okay, God, you got jokes. I was like, okay, we're doing it. We're doing it. And that's how I began my
Hmm.
spiritual path, because it was like doing the work, doing the soul work. And I was always asking, like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, I need you to do this soul work. Like I need you
Hmm.
to do the shadow work. I need you to help people come back to themselves so that they can
Hmm.
find their way back to me in a way that feels resonant to, to the
To
people.
them. Hmm.
Right, to them. And that's what I've been doing. And so every time I'm being asked to step into another container, I always ask them, I was like, okay, because God, my relationship with God was broken and I worked through that and I created a new relationship. Like we have a really good relationship, which is why I
Hmm.
always say he's got jokes, because he knows that
Yeah.
I love to laugh, right?
Uh,
So he will show up in places and do things that I'm like, oh, you're crazy. This is hilarious.
yeah.
Like one time I said, oh, I really want Chinese food. And I kid you not, 10 seconds later, the doorbell rings and there's a guy delivering Chinese food for me in my name. And I didn't order. I was just like,
Gosh.
God, you got jokes. I want to thank you so much. Like,
I have to remember
it's
that
in,
when I want Thai food, I just have to remember
yeah,
that.
yeah, because it's so good. Like,
Hmm.
when you allow yourself to create these relationships with yourself, with your beautiful goddess within, right? Your soul, with God, with your spiritual team, your angels and guides, every time you heal, right? Because we're like these large onions. Every time
Hmm.
you heal and a layer comes off, more and more do you awaken your gifts within. More and more the trust kicks in, the surrender happens, the receiving shows up. And
Mhm.
people don't understand sometimes that they go around in a circle. And I'm like, it's because there's another layer to that story. It's not that you're
Mhm.
stuck, it's just another layer. It's we have to get to the root of it. And you
Yeah.
have so many layers that you're probably not only carrying from this lifetime, but from a past lifetime, or
Mhm.
some contract you're carrying with you from your generational lineage. You just have to remove it a little bit out. So ruthless compassion, tenderness, gentleness.
Yes.
Because when you want to pull a band-aid, you don't want to just pull, it hurts. You want to
Mhm.
take your time and pull it off. Yes, we want to pull off the band-aid, but we don't want to just leave half the band-aid just sticking there, because
Right.
it's not going to be done. So that's why I do the work that I do, because it is my honor, it is truly my honor to be a sacred guide for the beautiful souls that I
Mhm.
work with, to come back home to
Yeah.
themselves, to create the life that they want, and to live it to the fullest. Like, own yourself, own your voice, own your body
Mhm.
temple, everything, because you deserve it and you're worthy of it. And sometimes we forget that.
Oh, we do. That's the thing.
Oh,
We do. Just like we started out the show, talking about women being, we're taught to be selfless, take care of everybody else first. You know, eh, I think women even forget what they want anymore because they just got to do, keep going, keep going, keep going. I remember in my first marriage, and my former mother-in-law, she has passed away now. We ended up having a very good relationship. Where in the beginning, I don't think I had a very good job when my ex-husband and I met. And then when we had our first child, we decided I was going to stay home with her for a while. And she did not like that. It wasn't until she got sick and was living with us did she see, and I was working at that time along with taking care of the kids and her through cancer, taking her to her treatments, all these kind of things. She thought, I remember her telling my ex-husband at the time, like, you have no idea what she does. I hope you appreciate her. She didn't have respect for me being a caregiver at the time, stay-at-home mom or any kind type of care, until she saw actually what I did, plus all the work I took on of hers with our business, that my ex-husband's in her business. Yeah, she didn't see my worth till then. And so I always felt like I was having to keep up to her standards just to be
mm-hmm.
okay in her eyes and good enough for her son. And now, when I look back on these things, it's like, wow, my mom was never that way. She never felt like she had to earn love or respect, you know?
Exactly. But that's probably
So,
because she was very, and that's the thing, right? That we believe these false truths and
mhm,
we take them on like they really belong to us. And that's
yeah.
one of the things that's so important for us as women. And also understand we literally follow the cycles of the season. We follow
Mm,
the cycles of the moon time. We follow, there's a rhythm within us that is connected past this physical, environment.
mhm,
We truly follow this other unseen rhythm. And it is important for us to really honor those parts of ourselves, because sometimes we're moving through things and you want to check and see, it's like, okay, well, what's happening on the planet right now? What
mhm.
cycle of the moon are we in? What is happening in the stars, in the, because it affects us on a deep, deep level. And so sometimes we're moving through the world like very, very anxious, but it doesn't really belong to us. Sometimes we're just picking up other people's energy. Maybe we're picking up the collective. And so it's important. That's why it's always important to know what's yours and what's not yours, right?
Mhm,
Just like you were picking up on your mother-in-law saying, and what she was thinking, and you
mhm.
made them unknowingly like
Yeah,
yours,
yeah,
until she came and saw it with her own physical eyes. And then it was like, oh, right. But see, that's the thing. We're picking up other people's judgments and beliefs
yep,
and
yep.
opinions, and they don't even know. And they
Mhm.
don't even belong to us. And so that's why it's
Right.
important for us to really have strong boundaries to figure out what we are and are not allowing. And I feel like your mother, in that respect, had that boundary where it was like, I don't need anybody's approval. I'm gonna figure out what I need
Right.
to do by myself.
Right. 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 And she had her challenges too, like I talked about in the beginning,
Exactly.
but yeah, but that was one thing. She never felt like, because she was a stay-at-home mom and she was my whole entire life, she never felt like she was less than, or, anything like that. Um, yeah, it's a amazing thing when we come to the point where, oh, I don't have to be in anybody else's approval. I just have to
That's
approve
the
of
key.
myself. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's the key right there.
Yeah.
I don't have to, because
Mm-hmm.
we got free will. That's
Yeah.
what the divine creator gave us, free will.
Mm-hmm.
We get to choose. We get to decide what's our
Yeah.
truth and what's not our truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's why words have no power until you give them power.
Right.
So what words are you allowing to have power over you?
Mm-hmm.
That's why
Absolutely.
it's important to
Absolutely.
know, what do I want and what do I don't want? What am I
Yeah.
allowing and what am I no longer allowing?
Mm-hmm. That would be, we're going to take a break in a moment, but it would be good to go into why boundaries are so essential to our souls. I know you talk about that a lot too. And they are, gosh, in every area of a life, boundaries. And I know with me, I've got to have very strict boundaries with my father. So we're going to take a break, but I'd like to go into boundaries, if that's okay with you, in the next segment. And where can people find you again?
And they can find me at my website at www.luminousinnerwisdom.com, or on Instagram and Facebook at SRA Dominguez.
All right. We'll be back, everyone. Thank you.
To the beautiful soul who is sick and tired of not being the fullest expression of herself, she who is disconnected from herself, her body, her voice, and her power. She's overwhelmed and exhausted from trying to be everything for everyone except for herself. If you hear these words and they stir something within you, then this is for you, beautiful soul. It is time to come home to yourself. Sandra Suarez Dominguez can guide you there. Visit luminousinnerwisdom.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today is Sandra Dominguez, and I did it again. Messed it up again, girl. I don't know what's up with me today.
All good.
But so, So when we left, we were talking about how boundaries are essential to our soul, and on break, you were talking about non-negotiables. That is a very good thing to bring in. So what are, I assume that you have strict boundaries with your family, as well as, well, your whole life with friends, people. And what about non-negotiables? Let's talk about those.
Okay, so once upon a time, I did not have boundaries, and I didn't have any non-negotiables. I was your people pleaser. I would self-sacrifice. And when I was starting my journey, and ever since my journey, I realized that every time I go against myself, I'm only hurting myself. I'm hurting my soul. I am not honoring who I am or any part of myself. And so boundaries is a way to say, no, no longer. I'm no longer allowing. And my non-negotiables are the ones that no matter who it is, it's an absolute no.
Yeah.
It's the absolute, I don't think so. And so boundaries is where I let you come up to a specific line in the sand, and I might give you two chances, and the non-negotiable is there is no third. That's it. I'm done. And so my non-negotiables are for everyone. That includes even my intimate family. I will not entertain whatever this is, and I will step away from that, because I refuse to be, one of the things that is my boundary is I refuse to be in places that don't make me feel good. So I don't care if we're at a family function or whatever. If this doesn't feel good, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go somewhere else. Okay. If we're whatever you're talking about and I don't really care about it, I don't, because I'm not into whatever it is they're talking about. I just get up and I just excuse myself. Oh, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. And then I just go sit somewhere else by myself, maybe with the pets, with some kids. I was like being around kids, because kids' energy is just, it's beautiful. It's open. They're clear. They are just in the space of possibilities. They're not jaded yet, so being around kids, it's like really, really good, because there's possibility there, and my inner child gets to play too, have fun, I love that. But if they're talking about stuff that just doesn't make any sense to me or triggers me in any way, I just excuse myself. I don't explain myself. I stopped over explaining. That's another
Yeah.
non-negotiable. Like it all depends too. But yeah, it's like I don't need to explain.
Yeah.
It's I will explain up to a point, but I'm not going to I'm not going to fight for you to understand who I am and what it is that I do. If you don't understand, awesome. That's awesome that you don't understand. And I'm okay with that. I'm just planting seeds and
Yeah.
you will figure it out when it is your divine timing to do so. So I don't fight. It's just like, oh, okay, that's something that is a non-negotiable for me. I'm not going to fight to take a stand. I'm just going to plant a seed and I'm going to step back because you're not ready. You're not ready for me and you're not ready for what I have to say. And it's not my place to force my way into whatever it is that you're moving through. That's on you.
Right.
And so when I see people having conversations and I say something and then they get triggered, I always step back because I always check in first. Like, okay, so is this mine or is this theirs? Is this mine or is this theirs?
Yep.
And that for me is always that's a non-negotiable for me to always check in first before I believe that this is mine. And so if it doesn't belong to me, right, because I don't feel triggered, it's not anywhere within me, I don't hear anything, it's like, oh, it's all theirs. It's like, oh, well, why do you this is yours.
Yeah.
This is yours. This has nothing to do with me. And they're getting all excited and I'm not excited, but it's just like I'm just honoring. I'm like, oh, I'm not saying anything, but within me, I'm like, oh, I'm going to honor what you're moving through. And I hope that you find what it is that you're needing, and
Right.
I'll just, reciprocate wherever I need to. And then I step away because I belong here too. I don't have to fight. I am here. I can take up all the space that I
That's
want. And
right.
if I trigger you, you're welcome. I'm giving you free coaching to figure out what is wrong with you or what you're moving
Yes.
through. Not that something's wrong with you, but there's something for you to want to move through. So you're welcome. And I just walk away because, it's important. And boundaries, we must honor ourselves because if we don't have any boundaries for ourselves, this is why we get anxious, overwhelmed, depleted, exhausted, because we're not allowing ourselves to be honored in our ways, in our space, in how we move through the world. We're allowing other people to tell us who we are, pushing all our buttons. Like, no, that's a disservice to yourself. That's why you got to love yourself. It's like, no, that is not mine. And I don't want that. Please keep
Yes.
it to yourself, because you have to be very, very vigilant to what you're choosing, what words you're allowing to be yours, what words you're using to describe yourself, how you move through the planet. That's all here. So honoring yourself with boundaries is important so that you can keep yourself whole, so that you can keep yourself full. We are this beautiful vessel. And because we are taught, right, to give, our vessel gets empty, but an empty cup of water can't give water if it's empty. So how are you filling yourself up? How are you replenishing yourself? So boundaries and non-negotiables help you stay full, help you continue to fill your vessel so that you can go out and share whatever it is you need to share in the world in your passion and your fullest expression of self, right? It's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that whole "you're welcome" is it's so funny. We had a training once and there was a woman that she showed up. We were in a couple of them together and then she stopped coming and she always had a way of saying that. There was just "you're welcome." And the way that she said it, it was very triggering to people.
Yeah.
And she would trigger a lot of people. And I thought that was just very interesting because there was also a guest I had on here not that long ago where she was talking about relationships, how somebody might be saying something or going off to her. And she's like, yeah, that doesn't sound like fun. Go deal with it. I'll be over here when you're ready. Like, I am not going to deal with that. So it's really just however you choose to handle that, whether it's, yeah, you're welcome, or yeah, no, and walk away and let them figure it out. And then you come together when you're a little bit like you're calmer, you've got more things together in your head, you've worked on your own triggers. And then we'll come back and kind of talk about it because, it's just like, Oh, I've been talking to my daughters a lot about, that the people in our lives, nobody can make us happy but us. So
Mm-hmm.
they've got to work on their stuff. And sometimes somebody may go off on you. It has absolutely nothing to do with you at all.
Exactly.
It's their own stuff
Exactly.
they have to work on. Yeah.
And they're
But we've
just
got to get to
spewing
a
it out.
point.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
spewing it. That's why you have to know.
Right.
What are you taking on? Are you going to take what they're spewing on you as like yours, like it belongs to you? I have conversation. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, and I'm like, oh, this is so interesting, and I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. And so
Mm-hmm.
if they're not getting it, the conversation, I always oh, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. I just
Mm-hmm.
go somewhere else because I don't
Yeah.
need to continue. I've planted a seed. I'm good. I'm sending you blessings, and I keep going
Yeah.
because I don't need to fight for a seat at the table.
Right. It's a lot of times like on even social media posts where people just go on and on and on and on about something, and sometimes I'll get kind of interested in something. Then I'm like, okay, this is enough, because they just keep going. And whether they're explaining ourselves, yeah, or they're just having to somehow uncover the trigger that really isn't, that was theirs and not that theirs at all. It was this other person's, not theirs. And it's just interesting, but it takes a while to get to a place where it's like, my gosh, I don't even need to deal with this at all. I don't need to sit here stewing or figure it out or playing these roles in my head, how I would handle this or do this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not even mine at all. And okay, I know that. And now I can just go.
Mm-hmm. And
It
that's how
takes a
when the more
while.
you work on yourself,
Yes.
the more you work on yourself, the more you uncover the work that you need to move through, it gets
Mm-hmm.
easier. You're just like, oh, because everything really amplifies. Like I can hear and see very, very quickly. And so sometimes I laugh, not to be disrespectful, but it's like, oh, because God has jokes. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, thank you for that. Because
Yeah.
there might be something there for me. I'm always looking to see, is there something there for me
Mm-hmm.
that I need to move through or understand or maybe just acknowledge within myself, and then
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh yeah, none of this, oh okay, great, and then I move on, because that's where you need to be vigilant. Like, what's coming
Mm-hmm.
in, what is this all about? Is it for me? Is it for somebody else? Like, what's happening? And then you
Mm-hmm.
get to move, right? You sift through your boundaries and your non-negotiables, and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. Oh yes, well, yeah, okay, I'm out. You
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you because I know your growing up years weren't perfect either. So when did not only were your growing up years not perfect, but it was you had this gift too. When did you realize that that there's so much more going on, not just with what you were growing up with, but there's so much more there for you to learn from so you could do what you could do. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. And that's where the journey kicks coming through, right? Because I definitely knew that what I was noticing is that sometimes what I'm feeling wasn't even mine. And I kept
Mm-hmm.
saying, wow, I'm just feeling extra. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is not even mine. It doesn't even feel like it belongs to me. But I always kept noticing that there's something else going through. So when God said to me, and there was always this underlying force moving through me, that no matter what I was going through in my life, there was this deep knowing inside of me that said, it's going to be okay. You're
Yes.
going to be all right. And the more I honored that deep knowing is when I realized I'm in flow. And when I didn't
Mm-hmm.
honor that deep knowing, that was when I was in chaos, right? Because
Yeah.
God has jokes. And you know how he keeps bringing those stories around, and it's like him saying, hey, you see this thing I brought 17 times with the same people, different people, this is the thing I need you to move through. You need
Yes.
to move through this. And so that's when I was like, that's why I always say he's got jokes, right? Because that's how he wants to show you something.
Oh, I know. And like some of us, like me, sometimes needs a few more bricks dropped on my head before I actually see it. And like you were just saying, like, okay, yeah, this lesson I've sent 17 times and 17 different people, and then all these different everywhere. Oh gosh, he does have jokes. Like my mom always said, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. So, gosh, I tell you. So we're going to take another short break, and we'll be right back, everyone. Thank you.
To the beautiful soul who is sick and tired of not being the fullest expression of herself, she who is disconnected from herself, her body, her voice, and her power. She's overwhelmed and exhausted from trying to be everything for everyone except for herself. If you hear these words and they stir something within you, then this is for you, beautiful soul. It is time to come home to yourself. Sandra Suarez Dominguez can guide you there. Visit luminousinnerwisdom.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to Transformation with Martine, where we overcome everything and compromise nothing. My guest today, Sandra Dominguez. We've been talking about, just leaning in and thinking of ourselves, our vessels, our souls as a beautiful gift that they are. So we've been talking a lot about ruthless compassion, and we've talked about like seeking love from others to a certain extent. Did you at one point, I know I did, it was trying to seek approval from my dad most of all. I knew my mom loved me. She might not have protected me, but I knew she loved me. But my dad, I still, to a very small percentage, would like his approval, but it doesn't, I don't need it like I wanted it before. Were you in a place like that? And how would you work with someone who was?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I always needed my mother's approval, but the more that I worked with my inner child and really leaned into what she really, really wanted, what came through was acceptance. I cannot, my mother cannot give me what she does not understand and never received herself.
Right,
and when you understand where your parents come from, if you can really understand, like my mom was the last of her clan, right? Her crew. Of her family. Her dad died when she was 2. She was considered a burden. She had no rights. Her life was chosen for her, her education, her spouse, everything. And she was never hugged or told I love you or I'm proud of you or whatever. But my mother, you have to understand your parents' love language, right? Because my inner child needed that too. My inner child wanted the hugs and the I love you and I'm so proud of you. And I didn't get that, and I always got, like hit or whatever growing up, those old school ways. And it's like, I always needed my mother's acceptance, and I conformed and twisted and did everything just to make her happy. But I was never happy myself. But when I started working on myself, moving through the journeys, deepening more into the truths of what was really going on, it came to acceptance. I accept my mom for who she is because she will not be able to give me what I need if she never received it herself.
Yes.
But my mother loved me in her way. And it was really getting to the roots of how that love would show up. Right. And so for my mom, things was her love language, right? Understanding your parents' love language. I got everything I needed. She supported me if I had to go to school. She would babysit for me if I needed her to, so I can continue to go to school. So her love language is not what my little girl needed, but it was there. Love was always there, even though it didn't make sense. And I also had to understand that she can't give me what she never received herself. And so when you get to the point of acceptance, I accept you, Mom, as you are, but I don't need you to accept me. You free yourself.
Right.
You literally free yourself. And it was that realization, all this work that I went through, and, with the flower essence and everything just landed. And it landed so clear that it's like, I don't have to do anything. You are who you are, and this is how you will be till the end of time. And I want to thank you. Thank you for the teaching that you've taught me so that I can move through all of this for all of us. And so I honor you and your inability to not be able to do what you need to because you don't know how, but also in the knowing that it's not my job to do that work for you because that's God's job. And you have your own spiritual angels and guides that will help you get to the other side. And so when you honor that part of acceptance, it's freeing. because you got to accept that they don't know.
They don't.
They were never taught, and they may never want to step into the containers of healing that. And so it's loving them how they are to the best of your abilities with your boundaries in place.
Yes.
And just see, where does the love show through? How are they showing you love? Because the love you may want, you may never get that, but they are loving you in one way or another. There is a way of that they show you some form of love. Like every time I go to my mom, she's like, take this food, take this apple, take this. And I'm like, I'm at the supermarket. Like, I'm like, okay. And I don't argue. I'm like, okay, thank you. Because that's her love language,
Right.
you know, and I have to accept her love language. She doesn't know anything else. And so now that she's older, and even though she's still, you know, she's very in her own thing, it's like, I still honor my boundaries. She tells me all these things, and I'm just like, it's okay. You don't have to understand me. It's okay. I still accept you as you are. And let's be okay with that. I'll still love you. Like, I'll still love you. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm very much at peace. And it's very freeing when you come to that space, because there's no expectations. And when you live in the space of no expectations, you know what peace looks like. You know what freedom looks like.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's where I live, in no expectations and in my peace and freedom. And I love that space.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It is. I am learning that there are times where I'll still kind of fall into it, like, oh, but he should have understood this, or he should have done that, or this kind of thing. And it's like, no, that's not his way. You know, I come back to center here, you know. But there are times when we're feeling maybe a little off, you know, like I was just talking about, or maybe our body doesn't feel quite right or something. So we might feel a little bit moody or a little bit needy, or, you know, that seems to be, at least for me, when those kind of things come up, where you're needing something, or you kind of expecting.
Breathe.
Yeah.
Because when you take breath into your body, right, you're allowing yourself to bring all of yourself back, right? Because when you're interacting, your energy is moving outward. But when you, and sometimes it's just like out. And if another person is talking to you and their energy is a little heavier than yours, they could be sucking your energy out. So you might want to just breathe in to come back to yourself. Like, breathe before you react. It's like, be present before you react, you know? And so it's a beautiful way to be like, oh, and when you acknowledge that you're feeling a specific way, it's like, oh, yes, nice job noticing that. Good job. Like, I always do that to myself. Nice job.
Great awareness. Yes.
How can I move through this? Or what is here for me? Because you got to honor yourself. Because you're rewiring your brain. And so every time you acknowledge that, your body will rewrite it, and so will your logical mind, and be like, oh, we need to look out for that. Yes, it's a good thing, you know.
Absolutely. I love what you were just saying, because I give myself credit for awareness. Like, oh, I see what's going on here. You know, sometimes, like they say, ignorance is bliss, but it's much better to just tap in and like, okay, I got it. All right, what do I need right now? And really tune into that and give myself that. That is definitely something that I tell my clients. And I'm sure you do as well. So we have a little less than a minute. What else? What's your final comment for our audience today?
My final comment for the audience is love yourself unconditionally right now, in this moment, exactly as you are, in this perfect body temple. Exactly how it is in this moment. You are beautiful, radiant. You are worthy and deserving of all that you want. So love yourself unconditionally. Come back home to yourself.
Yeah, because you deserve it. You deserve it.
Because you breathe, you deserve it. Because you breathe, you deserve it. And
that. I often, like, I'll write posts something like, you know, you are worthy just because you are, not because of this, that, or you've accomplished this, or who you are in business, or any of those things. Just because you are worthy. Yeah.
because you're blinking and
Yes.
breathing. That's enough.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Sandra. I so appreciate you. And thank you everyone for tuning in today to Transformation with Martine. And hey, you can overcome anything. We'll see you again next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Transformation with Martine. Did listening today spark a sense of hope and possibility? Hold on to this feeling and tune in every second and fourth Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific for more inspiring conversations with Martine and her guests. They will show you there is hope, and you are right where you need to be. Martine is dedicated to supporting you right where you are while launching you towards promise, passion, and possibility that leads to the fulfilled life your heart aches for. If you're tired of being stuck, schedule a complimentary consultation with Martine and get on the exciting path towards the life you want to be living. Visit martineemmons.com and make your appointment today.